Shrieking Insanity. The wall looked as plain and empty as ever, with its solid brown tint like wood staring back at me. I didn't really care about decorating my room in recent times, so this was just a normal feeling for me. Most of my days involved looking blankly at my room, with no emotions in my heart. Some days, I barely had the energy to want to wake up and face the world. But when I did, I would naturally always feel tired and lethargic afterwards. I will be very honest with you. My life is full of loathsome suffering that can no longer be washed away with support or love. Despite this knowledge, I was still someone back in the past who had a passion and a joy for working towards a happy, successful life. Dreams that I cared for and wished for every moonlit night. A life where people would value and accept me more and praise me for my endeavors that I strived to do. However, what if that one source of merriment which you care so deeply about is trampled on by a reality check? Hopes crushed by those around you who don't wish it upon you. Aspirations ruined by yourself. I hated my family, even though I was an only child. They weren't the typical happy-go-lucky couple to live with. They didn't love me for as far as I can remember, and neither did they want to support me in anything. Instead, they would hate me, shun me, disown me like the piece of shit I am. They harassed me to do things that they thought I needed to do, rather than actually listening to my own thoughts and feelings on matters, as if they were treating me like a slave. That's exactly how it felt like for me. One day, I found out from my father that they didn't even want to have kids, and that when I was born, that they really hoped that I'd die from something in the hospital that day. I'm surprised they didn't even choose the option of aborting me if they truly wanted me not to exist. I also really hated the town that I was fated to grow up in. Old, dilapidated infrastructure covered this land, all congested, together like an overgrown stomach. The people here as I grew up were not the friendliest either. Bullying was a constant time loop for me in school, with people snickering away at how I talked and behaved, like a weak, puny thing. One day in year 5, someone touched me. I was shocked and speechless, but not surprised either. everyone treats me like trash anyways. Sometimes on the nights before a school week would start, I'd cry in the bathroom, sobbing quietly inside for someone, some god, to help me. It never came. Everyone just ignored my presence and feelings for how it felt like being treated this way. Human decency didn't exist here. Just noise. I hated the noise. I hated it all. And then there's him. He says his name is Zavub. Zavub is sort of different to everyone else, with the fact that only I can see him. Zavub is essentially me, and I am also Zavub. He is my own little nightmare manifested into reality. A demon who I can only assume was birthed from the deepest level of hatred that rested inside of me. He appears daily as an apparition of black smoke. His red beaming eyes are the only noticeable features on its face. He speaks to me with his dark, deceptive voice, constantly, like someone nagging on and on. His cold breath is able to strangle me as the words leave his vicinity and enter my weary ears. It laughs at my failures, mocks my very existence, spits out disgusting remarks about me as a person, just like the majority of people in my life. My parents and the bullies at school would yell somewhat the same things, but he would make sure that it was properly known to me with true intent, on a deep, personal level. Time after time, every day, whispering those same phrases towards me. And I just knew that he enjoyed it too. How does one manage to even survive dealing with a being who shouldn't exist? The mind is a scary place to explore, and the subconscious, even more blasphemous. I guess it may be for this reason that it simply is what it is. With all this happening to me, you would still be surprised to know that in these dark times, I still saw glimmers of hope that would help me get by, but which only felt short and fleeting. I was once part of a really caring friend group who kept me company in times when I needed it the most. They were all super great humans, but there was one person who I really got connected with from those people. His name was Damien. Damien was someone who I looked up to a lot ever since the days of school where we would hang out together. My only source of joy at the time. As we grew up, we luckily still stayed close. Damien was someone who had a passion to become a successful actor as a career path. He, in fact, also introduced me into the field of the arts and drama, as well as helping me get through to landing some minor roles that we could both be involved in. His repertoire for acting was so damn good, and made me unsurprised that he wanted to choose this path for himself. A true role model. Damien's appearance in my life gave me creativity that I never thought I'd ever get, and it was through this passion that gave rise to my dreams of deciding a future that I loved. From a perspective for time, this was happening during our teen years. We both worked day and night, trying to hone in on the craft of acting and emotional storytelling. We would practice together multiple times, and it really was fun and enjoyable. This part of my life also helped to divert attention away from the negativity close to home. This went on for a while, and I was truly happy and content. Until I started to witness the failures. For a good chunk of time into the industry, I had a slurry of failed acting roles and some auditions that just couldn't make the cut. I kept auditioning for things that I wanted but could never get. Of course, that's just normal, as with anything in life really. Being met with failure is something we as people forget to appreciate, as well as the successful times. Damien would remind me of that simple yet overlooked point so clearly to me when discussing it with him. He would still motivate me to keep trying and working hard to get to the top as best as he could. And I kept that promise that I would. I kept working as hard as possible, and eventually, I even did manage to secure some parts here and there in some work. All of this stuff was happening in my life, while in the background, I'd be abused at home for my choice of freedom by my parents. Downplaying my ambitions like stepping on twigs, saying that my goals were selfish and impractical, that it was stupid because I wasn't earning money yet. They had an issue with me not being normal, and that I was too dumb to do the work I wanted to do. That heavy burden from home impacted my life in a way I never wished upon anyone else. I failed every time from that point onwards, to the point that by the time I reached 20, I was mentally done. And I stopped doing what I love. 4 years of motivation and passion dissolved into poison that made me go on a spiral of depression and hate towards everything and myself. The self-loathing slowly gave birth to him, manifesting from piles of misfortune and pain. That is how Zavub was introduced as a character in my play. He is a being made of pure rancor from those emotions that I felt at the time. However, that is not the only thing I felt. I felt something even worse. It was something I had never felt till that point in time. a feeling so evil and disgusting that it helped to rot my mind even more and fuel Zavub's influence on me. Envy. Where I stopped everything, Damien continued to go forth. When I failed, he succeeded. The friend group that me and him found each other through began to pick favorites, and of course, would interact more with Damien than me. At the same time, I also managed to subconsciously believe that everyone who I thought of as friends were in actuality a facade, faking their appreciation and gratitude for me. I thought deep down that those people, including Damien himself, truly just hated me and wanted me gone. Well, I did get shunned quietly from everyone's lives, and ironically in that time, it would actually cause me to develop feelings of jealousy towards everyone who was happy. I felt jealous of Damien. Every time the thought of such emotion came to mind regarding him, I'd slap my cheek to purge myself of the idea. How could I possibly behave like this behind someone's back, let alone a friend? There would be days I cried because of these emotions trying to infiltrate my heart. I didn't ask for this. I never wanted this, yet I was pathetically weak. That jealousy transformed into envy for the people who didn't have to go through what I was dealing with. Envious of the people who smiled. Envy for the giddy. Zavub relished those feelings, and in turn grew stronger from it, with his dominance over my psyche rising. That black shadow puppet of the subconscious was now the only thing I would be able to interact with for a while in my life, as I locked myself up indoors. And of course, it's not like my parents cared anyway, so it benefited them too. What with me out of the picture and all. They all lived on happily through my suffering. Happy people can be so cruel. Zavub once whispered to me, "Is it true? Does the success and pleasures of one's own life blind those very same individuals to the torment of others who are less fortunate? Do we as humans think about the oppression of others in this world on a daily basis? Or is the thought rare?" You should just let him go now. After all, I don't think he cares about us anyways. So why bother? He somehow was speaking both calmly, but also in a maniacal tone. Damien was someone who truly cared for me. Zavub's ramblings were a direct plan to divert me through that judgment, because all he needed to live was more and more hate. Even after I stopped it all, Damien still talked to me on the phone from time to time, asking about my health. curious if I'd want to give it another shot at glory. It was my fault. My fault for giving up and succumbing to the harsh reality without giving it my best. I was feeble for the task, and so these thoughts that tried to sway me would only make things much worse than they already were. Deepen the nightmare that was brewing in my mind. I took pills for my mental health problems, but they wouldn't work for me. Nothing did. Zavub was just too powerful for me to just get rid of now. His influence was enough to make me experience drastic mood swings from time to time. I would speak to myself and Zavub on occasion about how Damien just had it all. The way I remembered myself obsessing over him in an unhealthy way just makes me want to puke at the thought of it again. Zavub enjoyed these moments of rhetoric. It made him smile. He wanted to hear more. I wish everyone could be happy in this world. That we could all share our bounties of fortune and love. It would at least suggest that my life had meaning, and equally a demon like Zavub wouldn't exist either. Yet if that was the case, then wouldn't that just make the world a boring place? Every day I sleep, I swear I can feel him groping around in my skull, trying to reconstruct my nerves to suit his desires. Every time he does it, my head hurts so much. An agonizing migraine that pulsates like a beating heart, pumping out stress and pain towards every fiber of my being. I am his test subject, who had even less free will than before all this happened. He can do all of these things to me because he is me. A twisted version of my decrepit humanity. The other side of my mind, which he has access to. He prepared me for the day that I would become a monster and break every form of contact with any human thing out there. Wanted me to escape into his world, his nightmare, because I deserved it. What I'm about to tell here is now a series of events that have led me to become the thing I am now in this current state. As much as you wish to avoid the reality of some people's lives, why not step into the shoes of someone who always has to suffer and realize how it's truly like to live in this way? Then maybe you can understand how hard it is to survive for people like us. Even the act of having to wake up every day is a death chore. Forcing myself to see the same days go by. Miserable, tiring, mundane, woeful. It would feel like having to live in a time loop. How long do you think it would take for people like us to finally break apart? I'm honestly surprised I was even alive at the time of these events. By this time in my existence, Zavub had now been around for at least 3 years. 3 fucking years of having to see his face and presence, having to know that someone was always watching me like prey for that long. That day I was home alone, since I had overheard on the previous day that my parents would be out of town. Being home alone is something I actually enjoyed. At least it would give me the courage to step out of my room, and I would have a small fraction of free will to do what I wished in this castle, all to myself. Above all else, however, it gave me the space to unleash my pure hatred for them. Like a drunken man, I made myself towards the kitchen, where I would then proceed to throw all the Tupperware and cutlery down to the cold floor. It felt disgustingly amazing to swat away all those dishes onto the ground, sweeping them away like a dragon's tail, bringing them to their death and demise by my hands. I had never ever reacted this way before in my life, despite those emotions being so close to my heart. It's as if, finally, with any sort of freedom given to me, I would then be able to unleash that terror and havoc. No doubt, Zavub helped me come to this state. After all, it is what he wants from me. After I did this massacre in the kitchen, he was standing there in the corner of the room, almost looking impressed by my display. I gave the opposite reaction back at him, yet then suddenly started to laugh. What was I doing to myself? Behaving like a wild hyena, an animal, a pet to his liking. This is what 3 years with your inner demons can do to you, I guess. I even tried to retaliate towards him at that moment, but to no avail. I was too weak to confront him properly. His grip on my psyche was just too vigorous. I began to develop a panic attack as the anger fluctuated with me trying to calm down. How much longer could I accept this life? How much longer would I be chained to him? Why won't it just leave me alone? I slumped myself into despair and depression by the corner of the room as I tried to cry out my emotions and settle down. All alone, by myself. Nobody to give me a hug, a helping hand. Nope. Just me. Even Zavub had vanished now. Of course, his work was done for the day. That afternoon, approaching evening, I sat by my windowsill staring into the sky in my bedroom. I could tell that the stars would not show up tonight, and that the moon's glow would be only faint. My room felt ice cold, mirroring myself. As I sat there deep in thought, I reminisced about the past, trying to remember moments in my life where I would smile. I missed my friends, being in their company during my younger days. I missed working with Damien in the arts. All good things, sadly, have to end. A statement that I have had to learn in the last few years. However, for a select few in this world, they can keep those moments forever in their lives. How unfair it all is. Remembering that fact reminded me of Zavub again. How he first arrived into my world. He only started out as something that would appear in my nightmares, really. A recurring entity torturing my broken dreams. The more I would see him and interact with him, the more real he would slowly become. And then soon enough, Zavub and his nightmare soon manifested into my world as a real concept to me. Sometimes, he hangs above my ceiling, stares at me through the window, or even sits beside me in bed when I try to sleep. He just does not leave me. Ever. My phone then began to ring, breaking my reflection of silence. It was Damien, so I promptly answered his call. He told me if I was down that I should come by his place that night, to hang out for a bit. Especially since we hadn't met each other face to face in some time, what with him being busy with his work. I did miss him a lot, and I felt like meeting him, and at least talking to somebody who cared for me would help out. So I accepted his request and soon got myself ready to go to his place that night. I took a nice warm shower, dressed up in my dark black hoodie, and made myself towards the front door to leave. Zavub was standing by the corridor, against the wall, arms crossed. You know, you should just admit it. Isn't it important to be truthful? He is your closest friend, after all. He was right. Those deep feelings of jealousy and envy I had towards someone like Damien would always haunt me. Still haunt me. The way life treated him compared to me. Something that would not leave me alone, just like Zavub. This would be a chance for me to properly, in a private space, explain my feelings towards him, and maybe get some help on how to cope. Of course, Damien wasn't a therapist, but his words of advice would still soothe me in finding a way to keep going on. After all, he's always been there for me back in the day, and would always be a good listener to my needs and help out in certain situations. Talking to him would remove a heavy burden on my chest. But why would Zavub suggest something helpful. Surely positive feedback and reinforcement would weaken his grip on me. I didn't say a word as he stood there, and immediately left my home to go to Damien's apartment complex. Luckily, it was just a 5-minute walk to his home, so it wasn't ludicrously far to get to his abode. Yet as I was making my way there, words and sentences began jumbling around in my brain, trying to figure out how I would explain myself to him. I've never mentioned anything this complicated to him before, so naturally I was stressed and a little anxious as to how I would approach it all. I believe transparency is key in any sort of human connection, so I needed to make sure that I stayed to my word and be truthful towards my best friend. Once I arrived at his apartment block, I breathed a huge sigh, and then proceeded to make my way to his room. I think I was sweating while I made my way up, my heart beating faster and faster the closer I got to his home. The voices in my head grew louder as they yelled things like a siren back at me. All that negativity was trying to seep through. When I arrived at his door, however, I was met with sudden silence, and my erratic mind stood quiet. I knocked and, of course, he answered my call at the door. Damien welcomed me in with a beaming grin and a nice tender hug after seeing the sight of me. Something I had wanted for a long time. Something I rarely got. A show of love that I just wanted at the end of the day. I held back a tear as I reciprocated that same hospitality back towards him. We had actually not met each other in around 2 months, to be specific, so it meant a lot to both of us. Damien had cooked up a delightful lasagna for the night that I managed to gobble up with joy. I had realized that before this meetup, I had not even eaten a smidge of anything prior in the day so far. Damien was the one light in my life, the only light in my life, and just being able to chat with him, I knew I would at least feel a lot better for the next day. However, as the night went by, I could sense a dark presence in Damien's apartment. Zavub was here. I could feel it. That same ominous atmosphere that I would notice in my own abode was now present here, while me and my friend just wanted some time together. Why? Why does this fucking thing not leave me alone? Why does it consistently torture me and follow me around like a pet? Am I his pet, or is he mine? I became distracted by his attendance here, alarm bells sounding off in my brain, alerting me of what intentions he may have had here. All the while, Damien was still conversing with me. Just like when I first got to his door, however, all the panic inside of me ceased in an instant. Damien wanted to tell me something important. A big announcement that would change things forever for the both of us. Damien had landed a massive opportunity to work for a talent company out of the country, where he would be able to get much more support and funding for the projects that he would do, and ample space to do them in. So naturally, he accepted the role. It was no surprise, of course, a no-brainer. I congratulated him in a lively way, because I truly knew how big this meant for him. Just like me in a way, Damien also didn't really enjoy the atmosphere in this place. So having that opportunity to finally set free from these shackles was a moment he was surely wishing for. Possibly something he never saw coming. Damien was an example of someone who worked super hard to get to a point in life where they could feel comfortable in what they do. Something that I too wanted and desperately needed. His move was to take place in around 1 month from then, so he would be very busy in between the time that would come by leading up to that departure. And so, Damien told me that the reason for this meetup was to also say that this may have been the final time we would interact as close friends, either for a long time or forever. I absolutely knew that Zavub was also listening to this news. With how much I knew Zavub, I could tell that he would want to step in immediately to take hold of me and make me spout out my jealousy and hatred towards his happiness. Once again, inside my head, as I listened more to Damien's news, I could feel like my mood would change into something ugly. Zavub was slowly approaching my domain, raising his shadow hands out as he attempted to grasp my heart. His grip on my soul would mean total control over myself. A sort of possession, but more psychologically powerful. Is it so hard to appreciate other people's achievements from the perspective of one who perceives to have nothing in their lives? Can we not feel truly happy for them without also holding a sense of jealousy at the same time for something that they have but you don't? Is this a sign of greed or want? Grasping onto something that others find happiness and enjoyment in, but which cannot be granted to all individuals? Having a life they can, but you can't? Time froze for me on the spot. This grotesque side of my mind was urging itself to burst out. I could feel my body twitching, my hands turning into a fierce fist. No, 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 no. I kept saying to myself inside my head. I had to control it. I had to control it. That's all I needed to do. I was happy for him. I was happy for him. I was happy for him. He deserved it because he worked for it. I didn't and gave up. And that's a matter of fact. I had to move on. Yet, just like everything else that I had done in my puny existence, I just let it go and unleashed it. I hate you! I said it in a way that both seemed like I was yelling, but also attempting to sound as light as I could. It felt like when I said those 3 words aloud, that the whole universe began to beckon to my call. Tears began to trickle down my bruised cheeks. I kept going. Anyone would love to have the life you have right now, in which you could achieve anything. That person was me once. But what did I have on my plate? Do you know? Nothing. No love, no support. I never grew up with a family that cared for me or appreciated my presence. You didn't have that experience, did you? But I'm sure you know that I did. That shit happened to me. A majority of people in my life have rejected my existence for nothing more than a speck of dust. Dumb, stupid, loser, failure. Do you know any idea of what goes on inside my head as I try to live in a world that denies me freedom or pleasure anymore? I tried so much, Damien, to listen to your advice, to keep going and striving for greatness. But I kept failing, dying, suffering through countless defeats. This world detests me. Even from birth, I was told that I wasn't needed, or that I didn't deserve a life. I fucking hate this sort of fate that has been bestowed upon me. Why do some people have happiness in this world, while others like me have to suffer in despair, alone with this demon in my head which haunts me, hurts me, stalks me, eats me, burns me, transforms me, twists me, kills me, making me erupt my pure hatred for you and any other happy people on this hellhole of a planet. I said all that. I don't know how long that outburst took, but it happened, and there was no going back from this point. All of those things I said, did any of it hold any meaning? I honestly don't know. And really speaking now, I don't care anymore. They are a collage of the many negative emotions strewn inside of me. Evil things that should never have been known. Damien stood in the kitchen, silent. He remained mute for a while after I stopped rambling, just standing still. I don't know if he was just shocked or surprised. I immediately then remembered myself tearing up even further and crouching down in a feeble, weak position on the kitchen floor. It was happening. This is exactly what Zavub wanted from me, and I did it. He was trying to possess me, fueled from the hatred deep inside my heart. He saw this as an opportunity to take control of me. My whole perception of reality too now began to faintly wither away. I was breathing hard, and my head was breaking down. I think I could faintly see Damien trying to approach me with concern as I went through my panic attack. But I think I swatted him away violently in the terror of the moment. Then, during the frenzy, a black, thick fog soon began to permeate my vision of the Damien residence. It was covering my eyes as if I was sinking underwater. Reality was distorting itself into darkness, a void. Soon enough, the world around me slowly evaporated from my sight into nothingness. Darkness was now the only thing I could see in this place. Black. Completely, entirely black. Despite my lack of eyesight here, I could still feel. I could still hear. It felt like I was stuck on pure crystal ice. So chilling that it felt like it was slowly burning me instead. I heard screams, shrieks of insanity, yelling at me like rabid dogs. The sounds would always fluctuate between the screams, to then a sudden chorus of industrial cacophony, like metal being scraped across a heavy ground. Rusty metallic bars banging against one another. So much negativity. So much sounds I hated. It was stuff that I was familiar with. In increasing tempo would these noises grow. I couldn't even get up and move away from it all. But then again, where would I have gone in this seemingly endless void? It kept me in place here, forcing me to adhere to this nightmare's rules, subjugated to listen to the cries. What was happening in the real world? What would Damien be doing right now? Was my body still back in his apartment? And my soul taken here? Or maybe I'm dead. And this is my afterlife. This place made no sense to me, and I was scared stiff with dread. Suddenly, out of nowhere, all fell to silence, and in the distance, a single source of light interrupted the dark. It was as if a light from above shone down to a singular point on stage. It was then that I was finally able to move around this place, as I made my way towards what the spotlight was beholding. Every step felt agonizing. The closer I got, the more visible the object presented before me was. It wasn't that far. I only took 30 seconds to get to it, walking on top of the metal grates that made up a part of this world. Then, I saw it. A knife was stabbed into the ground. I noticed near the area of the tip stabbed in place that a speckle of blood was smothered onto the stainless steel surface. It looked fresh. Curious, I decided to examine and investigate further. What was an item like this doing in such an abstract space? It was the only other noticeable object here, apart from me. As I touched the handle of the knife, a tidal wave of chills scattered around my body like an omen. And then I heard him whisper, softly in my ears behind me, "Welcome back." Instantaneously, I gasped in fright from Zavub's voice, his cold lips strangling my space. I then found myself back in reality after those words came out. I was back at Damien's apartment, just like before. I even looked around my surroundings just to make sure I was in the right place. And I was. I don't even know if time passed from the moment I was whisked away till when I then came back. While observing the scene, I then looked down onto my hands and noticed the knife came back with me, and I was holding onto it with blood-stained palms. I was confused, lost on what this meant, until I then adjusted my eyes into focus and looked for Damien below. He was laying on the ground in front of me. Damien's throat was completely drenched in blood, with a massive wound located by his Adam's apple. His lifeless face stared back at me, with his mouth agape in horror. Blood was dripping from above that spot, down onto the kitchen floor, like an overflown basin. The fresh red liquid on the knife earlier now made a lot of sense. I had killed him. I somehow murdered him. Just gone. The only person who I felt happy with being in my life, the only one I was so close to, the only being in my life who was my hope, had been destroyed by the very friend who sought his comfort all along. I let the emotions win. The negativity, the hatred. I let it unleash inside out of me. It was my fault. I allowed Zavub and those corrupt thoughts to possess my whole body, to enact this murder scene before my eyes. I was their vessel. I puked from disgust, and even managed to cough out a little blood too after what I had seen and done. My blood that coughed out though was completely black in colour and hue. Darkness. I wanted to cry from distress, but not even tears could come out from the floodgates of my eyelids. What was real anymore? Was I still in the nightmare world, altered from the dark gloom which was set before? Was this all a dirty prank done by Zavub? I wouldn't have been surprised. It's absolutely something that he, or it, would do. I stared at his body for a while, despite my intense reactions to it all. And the more I gawked at it, the more I realized and accepted that this truly was in the flesh. This was reality. That I had killed him by stabbing a kitchen knife multiple times through his neck until he could not feel conscious anymore. I wanted to cry, scream for help, but my mouth was mute. Even when I tried to make noise, no vocals would come out of my throat. I immediately decided to pick up the bloody knife and thought of the only plausible repercussion for what I did. Ever since my life had gone downhill, I always thought of wanting to go ahead and just end it all. To erase myself from this earth. And so I wished death upon myself in an erratic state that night. Wishing to stab myself with that same weapon into my heart. At least doing so would probably banish me and my broken subconscious to hell. My suffering is not something that should be viewed by anyone, or to be burdened by, for a matter of fact. So my death would ultimately mean nothing. It's not like anyone would care. I held the bloody thing in front of my chest, over the location of the organ that I wished to pierce. I tried to thrust the knife into me with all the strength left over in me, but to no avail. I couldn't move my arm every time I tried to stab myself. It wouldn't go through. This has happened before in the past, when wishing to commit suicide. I feel like every time it comes to this, my inner demon gets a hold of me and prevents me from committing the act. To Zavub, if I'm gone, then so is he. And for as long as I stay alive, he will continue to overshadow me. He wants me to stay so that I don't leave his reach and the agony he enacts on me. He gets satisfaction from it, growing stronger and stronger like a developing baby in the womb. I attempted to stab myself in the spot for 1 whole minute before giving up. I didn't know what to do. I started to breathe excessively, sweating profusely, shaking absurdly. I then decided to run towards the window in the apartment room to see if I could jump out through there. No luck. The window would not open however hard I pulled. It was sealed shut and immobile, as if glued into place. In addition to that, since I was looking out the window, I noticed something which made me more anxious. There were no lights outside, and no signs of objects either, such as roads or other buildings. It was just a black space, the same one I saw in the nightmare vision before. Just nothing. For some brainless reason, I still thought I could escape by just exiting the room from the front door. Jammed. Wouldn't open either. On the other side of the door, I listened in, and then again, I could hear the same uproar from before. The yells, the screeches, the deafening sounds of a festering chaotic realm. I was completely trapped inside the room. Just me, Damien's slaughtered body, and Zavub's aura, who was obviously orchestrating this whole mess, thanks to yours truly. I felt puny and weak in the moment, with no hope of any kind, as now I started to see black flames manifest into the building, burning coldly. Maybe this was how I was meant to go, being immolated by my own darkest, deepest emotions. I returned into that feeble, tiny position again, as the room started to disintegrate before me. The noises infiltrating the room, as well as everything, began to collapse before me. The intoxicating fumes caused my body to shut down once again, and forced me into a coma. The last thing I ever saw in the room was his corpse laying on the ground, and Zavub towering above it behind my back, with his head tilted to the side towards me, smiling with an oversized, sharp grin. When I woke up, I found myself in some sort of solitary confinement room. It was unnecessarily large for a room, holding only one occupant. Leather walls covered the entire vicinity, blotched with rot, decayed blood, and rust. It smelt awfully industrial, but luckily not enough to make me feel more nauseous than I already was. I couldn't hear anything in this place, just complete and utter silence. Where was this room? I didn't know. And quite frankly, at this point, I no longer cared. Or still care. At present, I am still here in this isolatory domain. I think I've been here for 5 days, but ultimately that's a guess. Because I don't even know if time works in this place. I am all alone here, but then again I'm used to that as well. But I also barely feel alive anymore. Damien's blood from that day is still on my hands, albeit now dried up and scarred onto my palms. The skin on my body feels charred and cracked, like a broken mannequin doll. Sometimes, a black ooze emanates from those marks, and it stings so much when it comes out. I no longer feel like I can breathe. And yet I am somehow being kept alive here. Probably from Zavub's curse or something. I don't have the energy to get up and walk around in this room. I have nothing left. So, I just sit here now, in the same place. The same exact position from when I first arrived here. It feels like I'm slowly melting away as a prisoner of this room. I don't see Zavub anymore either. Haven't seen him since that terrible day. Even that dark side of my mind, that hidden demon birthed from my subconscious, born from my pain, my suffering, has left me now. For all I know, he's probably in the real world right now, having replaced my being and rebirthed into a monster. He's trapped me here to rot away. As punishment? Perhaps. Everyone in this world, whether you wish to believe it or not, holds a level of hatred at something, whether it be at a person, a thing, or even a concept. We all have it. Equally, we most likely all have a form of Zavub in our minds as well. The other side. Our hidden selves which don't often come out. The other side of our psyche that is secretly kept dormant in our hearts, but which feeds from those deprecated thoughts and feelings. How we control those emotions is what matters. For people like me, that is a hard task to handle. Because holding on to animosity and enmity deep within your heart will make you commit acts you wouldn't even imagine. Just like I did. It gives way to the devil's influence. Just like it did for me. This is a tale of how one individual's deepest, darkest psychological nightmares can manifest into the real world, transforming reality into that same horror, or even worse. A world overshadowed by your deepest fears and mental pains. It is a form of suffering people like me face on a daily basis, while others cannot perceive it. Other people's lives are just so much better than ours that they don't need to encounter what we see. Which is why there is no way to help us. I am just too weak. A mindless zombie who has accepted the tyranny wrought from the mind. I have become too dissociated with my own self that I forgot what I still had and held on to in this world. I still had a friend who loved me. How could I ever forget him? Having one person that supports you in life is better than having nobody. I still had that. However pathetic I felt, I still had him. Despite that, I just still had to hold on to those disgusting feelings inside me and let them take hold. I still let my dark side win. I should have been more grateful. I took away my last hope in this world by removing that very thing, myself, with my own hands, puppeted by envy. I deserve all that has happened to me. I deserved it ever since I was born. Fate wrote it in stone for me. I fucking hate fate. The way it dictates the rules for some people causes disparity among each person as it benefits others more compared to me. The concept reminds me of how truly unfair life can be. Life is a cruel task for people like me, who have nobody to support them or care for them. there is no love for us as we get whisked away from society. I've been trampled on by everything in this life up to this point in time. Could you possibly imagine how grueling having to live a life like me is? If you could go into my shoes, how would you be able to manage it all? If I could let you possess me, what would you do? I personally believe that happy people in this world do not care for what happens to people like us. Nobody has time to help an ugly thing like me. They don't need to interfere in my life because theirs is already complete. My sadness and pain would only cause them to falter from their success. I know it sounds hypocritical, but if you could just understand what I have been through, you would realize why I say these things. I never had the opportunity to be in the presence of consistent contentment in my world. I am just a stranger to those emotions. I am just a stranger to you. While some people in the world smile and laugh in the sunlight, we cry and scream in the nighttime, chained to our own delusions and made to endure the shrieking insanity of our subconscious mind. We simply suffer alone. While other people in the world will always have someone to comfort them when times are rough, by giving them love. All things that I mostly never had in my time being alive. I deserve no forgiveness for what I have done. But truly, what do you really think at this moment? Did I deserve all of this? Do you think it's fair? Do you hate me? Or do I just disgust you? Do you pity me? What would you do if I was somebody close to you, and you knew that I was going through these tough situations in life? How would you react to my misery and wretchedness? Would you feel uncomfortable? Afraid that my bad luck would rub off on you? Damien knew about my struggles, but I never hammered on him about it most of the times we spoke due to fear of rejection. The fear of seeking help. The fear of a realistic fact that not even your friends can help solve your life. It can only be you. Me. Each and every person has their own situations to deal with in their respective existences, to the point that they just won't have time for you. That's just reality. I couldn't save myself. And so it has come to this. Life is such a blessing. But for me, it is rather a dreadful curse that has caused more harm than good in this world. My situation could happen to anyone. So many people suffer in silence at their oppression, with no hope. That is a horror that everyone tries so much to avoid and forget. But it is there, whether you choose to accept it or not. As I sit here now, I feel my very mind slowly sinking into the abyss. Those black flames will soon swallow me whole and burn me forever as I lay here, locked up in my own prison. I wonder if this is how hell is like. My own personal hell. At least I won't harm anyone now. And I'm sure people like my disgusting parents will probably celebrate my departure from their home. I'm sure wherever Zavub is now, he is probably lavishing in his victory, looking for his next prey to target and bring down right now. It hurts so much. I feel incredibly weak, like never before. Tears are now falling from my eyes, weeping from the anguish and loneliness. I will rot here now. I don't care anymore. I hope you now understand what it's like to live like this. Understand how the worst ever emotions and feelings of pessimism can turn even the most sad, innocent people into vile, evil monsters. Understand the curse of having to live a life with no success and all failure. A world where giving up is easy. Having to speak to the darkest, deepest corner of your mind. Having to live in a world made up of your own insanity.